You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. When Brian Kelly met with the media on Tuesday after LSU resumed spring practices, one of the things he talked about naturally, as you'd expect, is coaches tend to do every time they meet with the media, football coaches do, they're going to be asked about their quarterbacks. Brian Kelly was asked about Jayden Daniels' offseason, of course, who's returning now. He'll be a fifth-year player, and the rare opportunity to be a fifth-year starting quarterback. But there are questions that naturally abound with Walker Howard leaving, with Garrett Nussmeier coming back, with splitting the reps the way they did in the bowl game. Here was Brian Kelly on his starting quarterback in the offseason that he had.
Part of this is we had to recruit him back too, right? So we had to give him a comprehensive plan as to what we were going to do in the weight room, how we were going to continue to develop him technically as a quarterback, all of those pieces. And then, utilizing the resources that we have here. We have VR, we have the ability to train year-round, having receivers here for him. It was really just having a comprehensive year-round training program for him right here, and then providing him the opportunity to do other things as well. As you know, he went out on the West Coast and trained with other elite quarterbacks, providing him the contacts to do that. So I think more than anything else, it was just really continuing the development of a quarterback that's in that stage.
You know what's interesting, and I'm bringing this up because it's, I'm not, this isn't me stirring the pot, I'm not kicking the anthill. I'm making very honest observations. You heard Brian Kelly say we had to recruit him back, right? And I've gone through this many times since Jayden Daniels showed up in Baton Rouge. He was a top 50 national player coming out of California, went to Arizona State. People around him, the assumption always was 3 years into the league. Dynamite freshman season at Arizona State, and we know what happened. Sophomore, COVID year, they only played a handful of games. Came back as a junior. Arizona State was in shambles. Herm Edwards gets fired. Well, obviously as a result of all the goings-on there. A lot of the staff was blown out. He decides, I'm going to give it another year to try to improve draft stock. So he enters the portal, comes to LSU. We know how it all went. And it was always supposed to be a one-year deal. It was always, not deal, but always supposed to be a one-year situation for Jayden Daniels in Baton Rouge. And you heard Brian Kelly say it there. We had to recruit him back with a comprehensive plan to show him how we're going to continue developing him. They did that from, remember, you played the SEC Championship that first Saturday in December. Jayden Daniels announced he was returning to LSU December the 22nd. So in that window of time between the SEC Championship game and the bowl game is when Jayden Daniels decided he was returning. So he decided he was returning on December the 22nd. He didn't play the bowl game until after New Year's. And what happened in the bowl game is that every third series they gave to Garrett Nussmeier. So that was it had to be for Jayden Daniels a little bit of a little perplexing to say, hold on, I was going to go pro. You recruited me back, told me how you're going to improve my draft stock, get me better, all this stuff. And then in the bowl game, I'm splitting series with Garrett. I mean, so am I the guy? Am I not? Which is why I think it is interesting to watch how this spring plays out. I'm not saying it's going to play out any differently than Jayden being the starter and taking every meaningful rep in games and being your starter for the season. That's what I hope happens. But it's worth watching. And every year ESPN does this this thing they call the college football future power rankings. So they look at the next 3 years and try to project what the rankings will be like for the next 3 years at that position. So for 2023, 2024, and 2025. Probably not surprising to anybody, number one on this list is Southern Cal. You got USC, you got Caleb Williams coming back to USC, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. And you've got a guy there in Lincoln Riley who has just churned through great quarterbacks from Oklahoma now at Southern Cal. That one is just very obvious. After SC, look, there's some usual suspects. They've got Ohio State there, number 2. They were ranked number 1 a year ago, by the way, but I don't think you could have projected what Southern Cal was going to end up being. C.J. Stroud's out. Oklahoma, interestingly enough, number 3. Georgia at 4. Some of the premier programs in college football, it's kind of what you'd expect. Alabama at number 5. So, I remember looking at this last year, a little surprised at where LSU was, and they were 16th a year ago. And the reason I was surprised is because LSU was basically coming off of a decade plus of quarterback purgatory. And then came Joe Burrow, and instantly the whole perception of LSU football with Joe Burrow seemingly changed at that position. And now, a year further removed, LSU continues to climb those rankings. Michigan 6, Texas 7, Tennessee 8, Florida State 9, Oregon 10, Washington 11, and then we find your Fighting Tigers of LSU 12th on this list. Again, remember, they were 16th a year ago. So you return Jaden Daniels, and even despite losing Walker Howard into the transfer portal, LSU still elevates from where they were a season ago. They say LSU projects well at quarterback through 2025, especially with Daniels returning after an encouraging first season. They talk about a lot of his numbers there. They talk about Denbrock and Joe Sloan. They do note that the quarterback room has changed with Walker Howard transferring out, but Garrett Nussmeier is there entering his 3rd season, and that if Nussmeier stays and he's Daniels' successor in 24 and possibly 25, that LSU's locked in. Then behind him, Ricky Collins. You've got Colin Hurley committed for 2024. So you can project ahead to what LSU is going to be. I'm here to tell you that while it's encouraging that this outlet is looking at LSU as one of the they have 12. I mean, right there, not far. When you're looking at SEC schools, it's Bama, it's Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, LSU, which is super encouraging. Now, the caveat is Oklahoma and Texas will be in the SEC by that time, and they're both ahead of LSU as well. So you put a little asterisk next to that, but as of right now. But the real truth is that it is impossible. It is impossible to accurately project this because of the transfer portal. Last year, you would have been looking at this list with projecting 3 years when you had not only Jaden Daniels, Walker Howard, Garrett Nussmeier, but also Miles Brennan at this point last year was still on this list for LSU. At this point a year ago, a lot of you were assuming that Miles Brennan was going to be the starting quarterback. So the transfer portal has completely changed this. Do you realize, a year ago you would have been looking at Wake Forest with Sam Hartman. Now Sam Hartman is Notre Dame's starting quarterback. Drew Pine was Notre Dame's starting quarterback. He's now at Arizona State. Devin Leary, great player in the ACC for NC State. Chopped NC State off at the knees when he left, but now he's at Kentucky. Well, NC State had to get a quarterback, so they got Armstrong for Virginia. DJ Uiagalelei. Last year, everyone was excited about what he could do in replacing Trevor Lawrence. Didn't have a great year. Now he's the quarterback at Oregon State. You don't need me to spell all of this out for you, but just illustrating why it's impossible to project, because realistically, I can't tell you definitively that Garrett Nussmeier is going to be LSU's quarterback next year. In 2024, I mean. Daniels plays in 23, maybe Nussmeier Lee. I don't know. I can't say it with absolute certainty because of how fluid this is. Similarly, I can't tell you that I think Ricky Collins will stay here and never play at LSU. I hope he does. I hope he plays and he's awesome. But statistically, it's not going to work out. And somebody in the next 2 years is going to be playing meaningful snaps or starting for LSU at quarterback that's not on the roster right now. It's playing for another school. It's just something that you kind of have to accept. That's the reality. The portal giveth, the portal taketh away. You're going to lose guys to the portal like you just lost Walker Howard. Now you've got to make up for that and gain it in the portal somewhere over this next 3-year cycle as well. But I would say this number, with LSU being ranked 12th on this list, is more of a hat tip to the coaching staff and their ability to recruit this position and evaluate this position for the same reasons why USC and Lincoln Riley are on there, or Ryan Day and Ohio State, or Kirby or Nick, or Tennessee. That is a hat tip to Josh Heupel. I think LSU being where they are is a hat tip to Brian Kelly, Mike Denbrock, and LSU's ability to attract really good signal callers, and I just don't really worry about that position anymore. I'm not telling you Joe Burrow's ever walking through that door again, or the next version of Joe Burrow at LSU, but you don't need him to win. You need someone who's more than capable of being an elite caliber quarterback in the SEC, surrounded with the elite talent that LSU will have, and they'll be able to win at the highest level. So, but it is such a difference in perception around that position in this program than even 5 years ago. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.